If you're joining us this morning and also looking at CBCNews.ca, you're going to see there CBC News undercover investigation. Really extensive reporting that you see the Swanton sector along Canada's border with the United States, a world of opportunity for people trying to start a new life and for people trying to help them be smuggled in. It's an undercover investigation from Jorge Barrera, he himself undercover, to experience the dangerous path so many take as they try to build a better life here. And Jorge Barrera, as he always does, good to give us some time to tell us about this investigation. Again, more important reporting, Jorge, tell us about these networks and how they operate.
Well, these networks are actually operating out in the open. It was actually easy to reach out to them. They're on social media. What I did was I went on the Telegram app and went in a channel, Mexicans in Toronto, and I posted a message on this channel saying, I need help getting into the U.S. And sure enough, I got 2 messages in my inbox. I started a conversation with one individual who later told me his name was Jesus, and right away in the message breaks down, the price for this sort of smuggling trip into the U.S., $4,500, $500 deposit. So we kept conversing, and then we moved to the WhatsApp messaging app to set up a meet in a Toronto park, and here's a little bit of that meeting now.
¿Y alguien está esperando en la
Sí, sí, en el otro punto. Por eso te digo, a ustedes los bajan y van guía ya en la camioneta.
¿Y es seguro?
Sí, sí. Pues hasta ahorita pues no.
No ha pasado nada,
No.
So he explained the trip to me. Basically, I get picked up in Toronto. He wanted to pick me up outside the Dufferin station at 6:20 in the morning on a Friday. Then I'd go to Montreal, and from Montreal, I would be taken to a highway running parallel to the border. And then from there, he said I would just, cross a cornfield into the U.S., and there'd be someone waiting to pick me up on the other side, and that there would be a guide taking me all the way there. But that same weekend, Heather, in that same area where he said I would have safe passage, U.S. Border Patrol apprehended at least 19 people.
So that's interesting. I mean, that was very clear as he reassured you that it would be safe. As you look at the network, you've obviously learned about the people who get caught up in the network. What is their story, Jorge?
I spoke with 5 women, all Mexican nationals, who believed the pitch from smugglers that it would be a safe journey. In particular, this one woman, Yazuri Martinez Alvarez, she was 21, she has a 1-year-old daughter at home, and she felt that she could not raise her daughter properly with enough security in Mexico because there's a lot of violence against women, and she just couldn't make enough selling vegetables and fruits at a stand in her community. So her family, through word of mouth, heard about this guy who had smuggled his family into Canada, actually from Canada into the U.S., and got her a contact for a smuggler who then told her, no worries, 3-hour walk through a cornfield. So she then flies to Toronto in late May and then is taken through the same steps that Jesus described for me, Toronto, Montreal, and to a road running parallel to the border. She's told to run. She runs through this field. It's pitch black. She's throwing herself down in short grass because there's headlights coming on the highway behind her until she hits a tree line. She's running with 3 other men. They get into this thick brush. They get lost. They walk for hours until they finally cross the borders, through swamp and water. They're exhausted. When they come out, there's a man waiting for them in a pickup truck. She says that when the door opened, she just was hit with the smell of marijuana, and that this man gave her an ugly and heavy look, and it gave her a bolt of fear. But Border Patrol was waiting, and as soon as the truck pulled away, Border Patrol got them, and she said she actually felt relief because she feared the man who picked her up more than U.S. Border Patrol. And we found out later that this man is actually currently in custody in New York City facing gun and drug charges. Allegedly, he's part of an organization in New York that imported fentanyl from Mexico. Heather?
Harrowing even to hear you tell it, Jorge, let alone for this woman who has lived that experience. Are Canadian authorities aware of this?
Yes, they are. You know, the RCMP told us that they do investigate people who conspire to do smuggling operations into the U.S. And also, you know, the Minister of Public Safety, Marco Mendicino, told us that this issue has been raised with his American counterparts, especially in light of the February death of an Indian family that was found frozen, you know, meters away from the Minnesota border in Manitoba. And this case brought the issue of human smuggling to the fore. And here's a little bit about what the minister had to say about what they need to do.
That means continuing to support police with the resources that they need, continuing to ensure that we have all the legislative tools in place that are necessary, and finally, making sure that we have strong lines of communication with the United States so that we can share intelligence, share information, and bust up those networks.
And as this investigation found, you know, these networks have these cross-border connections with guns and drugs. So it's not just people, it's other things that come attached to this. And that's what should give Canadian authorities pause. Heather?
Jorge, thank you again for telling us about this latest investigation. And if you'd like to read more about what Jorge has found as he's gone undercover, let's return to what you'll see online. On the front page of our website, CBC investigates the Swanton sector. You can find it there at CBCNews.ca.